obviously just came off the practice field straight up here, so a little bit hoarse, and we'll continue to drink water. But I just want to say I'm honored and proud to obviously take this responsibility of leading the football program over these next 8 games. We're able to go out there tonight and get a win, or this afternoon. We put a lot of preparation in during the week to go out there and give ourselves a chance to win the game. And, going into the game, we knew it was going to be a 4-quarter game. When you say that, though, you never really know how that's going to come down. What type of 4-quarter game. To really block out all the noise and eliminate all the external distractions that were around them and focus on one goal, and that was moving forward. We challenged them early in the week a couple things. One was to win the day and to play one play at a time within that day, one practice at a time, and come out at the end of the day ahead. More guys on our team did that and won that day and didn't. We knew we'd have a chance on Saturday.
If you could open this up with some remarks before we take questions.
Yeah, outstanding gameplay by our guys. In all phases, those guys, we developed a plan during the week. They understood the plan. The plan might not have made sense to a lot of people, but it made sense to the people that came on that plane up here to go play. They understood it, they bought into it, they believed in it, and regardless of what the score was in the game, they stuck to that, and they believed that sticking to the plan would give them the outcome they want. And can't say enough about these kids from what they've been through the last couple of months, and the resiliency that they have, and the way they prepare during the week.
What is going on, everyone, and welcome to WreckTalk. So if you're not a part of the Discord, that's where I actually got this from. There's a link for the Discord in the description. It's a chat platform. I believe I have one of the best communities on YouTube. I don't even have to do research anymore. People just tell me, hey, this would be cool to talk about. And I agree. So Key gave a talk at the Skeller School of Business, I think to some alumni, and talked about, kind of what his path looked like as interim, what he went through. And a lot of this goes just beyond football, coaching, and whatnot, and really just goes into good, sound kind of ways to approach life and how to be an effective leader. Now, Key's been kind of in the news, not really over this. We talked about on the live show about how he talked about his hatred for Georgia. And, I've had people like, oh, Key really stepped in it now. He talked about him hating Georgia. Yeah. Are you new to college football? If you're a Georgia fan, when Steve Spurrier was beating that ass, did you, for the better part of a decade, did y'all talk about how much you love and respected Steve Spurrier? No. Your rival is your rival. Key's a Tech alum, played at Tech. Of course he's not going to like Georgia. Moving on from that, let's talk about this AJC article. And actually, if you haven't seen the season review that MineFish did, I'll put a link to that in the description. He was actually at this event. He's taking some summer classes, evidently. But let's get into it. So it starts off with Key, talking about Key being the head football coach. It was a moment more than 20 years in the making for the former offensive lineman, but it also followed a tumultuous 2-month stretch of Key serving as the program's interim. And let's just kind of think about, put ourselves in Key's shoes. So Key, start off as a grad assistant, and most of them do, went with George O'Leary after the debacle with Notre Dame, and coached under him for 15 years. Had basically every position you could have as an offensive coach for him, including OC, and was really the heir apparent. From my understanding, he was also, toward the latter part of his stint at Central Florida, offered the head coaching job at UAB, which he turned down. Now, I don't know this to be the case. I get the impression that he didn't feel like he was ready, or he wanted more than that. He needed to get some other experience. And I just choose to believe he felt like it's not time for that yet. I need to develop further, which I really think shows some maturity on Key's part. That can end horribly I'm sure you've all worked for someone who was elevated to a position they weren't qualified for. It ain't no fun. Um, coaches under Saban, gets a national title ring there. And then think of what his experience must have been under Collins. Hey, I'm coming back home, offensive line coach at my alma mater, the place that I want to be. Tashard Choice is coming back. They got Marco Coleman. Like, all these tech greats are coming back. But you have to work under Jeff Collins. Can you imagine what that must have been like? Because Key knows what successful coaches do. He knows how successful coaches act. And he had to put up with Jeff Collins with pool noodles, chasing each other with pool noodles, crapping on previous successful head coaches at Georgia Tech. And I have to think he was just biding his time, like, hey, if I just hang in here, maybe this thing will turn around. This is where it starts off. His moment comes, he's named the interim. This is what Key says. You're preparing to be a head coach, but you're not preparing for it in the way that it happened. I was prepared as much as I possibly could, but there's nothing that can prepare you for a knock on your office door on a Monday and come and do that. So every coach has in the back of their mind, a short list of who they want on their staff. This is something Bryce Kuhn had talked about several, maybe even a year ago. And I agree with. You have a short list of who you'd want on your staff, how you want to run the program. Same in your careers. Like, if you're ever in a position to be elevated, your dream position where you want to be, in the back of your mind, you know what that's going to look like for you or how you're going to want to implement your program. Same is true for Key. It's one thing to have that in mind. It's another thing to have the opportunity present itself. What are you going to do? On Wednesday, Georgia Tech Alumni Association event at Skeller School of Business, Key went into detail about this. So let's skip ahead a little bit. Key called the 10-week stretch of him being an interim, 10-week stretch of uncertainty, a blur, as he recalled the course of his career and life began to change, when he was named interim. He says, when I got the call, I got called up. I'm walking back down the hill back to the office. There was nothing in my head that was, oh gosh, what am I going to do? How are we going to do this? Are they going to respond? And that's kind of what we're talking about. It's one thing to kind of have an idea, have a plan. It's another thing. You don't know how you're going to react. We all would like to think, we'd react in the best way possible, but you don't know till you're in the situation. He was in the situation. Key said it was go in there and be by myself and look, we got problems. We got problems we have to fix. I didn't even go back to my office. I went straight up to the second floor and immediately started to fix what was broken. I love this. I went upstairs and I grabbed somebody and said, let's fix our punt team. We have to fix it. At that point in the season, I think we had 4 blocked punts. It was embarrassing, and it absolutely was. And this is why I got so upset with people like, oh, that was just the interim bump that led to Key successes interim year. Like, people tend to play well for the interim. Number one, that kind of discredits the work that he had to do to turn this ship. And we were averaging a blocked punt a game. If you don't know, the NCAA average is a half block punt a year. In other words, on average, you will have a punt blocked every other season. When Key took over, we were averaging a blocked punt a game. Who was the special teams coach? Jeff Collins. He anointed himself special teams coordinator, the guy that Key had to take over for. These aren't easy fixes. And this is the first thing of like how to be an effective leader. Like, when you're thrust into a difficult situation, you have to be able to prioritize. So you really got to look at what's killing us the fastest right now. What's the most harmful thing? What's causing us the most problems? Obviously, it was the punt team. It says it in here. He doesn't even, before he even notifies anybody that he's been named the interim, he addresses this issue. Shows you how bad it was, right? We got to fix this punt thing if we have a shot in hell of winning any games this year. So we went in and tried to put as many mandates and patchwork on that as we could. That was before I even had a staff meeting to talk to the staff and to tell them what happened. I immediately went in to fix mode and coach mode. I think that speaks to the kind of coach that Key is. Like, it's not about me. It's not about this moment. Let's get to work. Let's get to work and fix what's broken. Because, it wasn't just Key. Like, all these kids are going through this as well. Like, you have to do something about that. From there, Key said he went back to his office where he had been serving as Collins' offensive coach since 2019 and spent an hour behind a closed door. So he gets the game plan together. And this is really important too. It says he knew he had a building full of assistant coaches now worried about their careers, futures, and families in in an emotionally charged team. Another important thing, when you're put in that spot, you got to look at the whole picture. Yeah, you might be excited and or worried about your future. You're excited you're named interim. You're kind of worried about your future. As a leader, you have to be able to set that aside for a second. Put that on the back burner. Leadership is not really a position of authority as much as it is a position of service. How do I best serve the people that report to me? How do I best serve the people whose interest that I've been put in charge of, or whose really lives? When you're a head coach, these people's livelihood is in your hands. So if you're the kind of person that, I just like to have authority, then it ain't for you. It's a position of service. And that's the impression I get from Key. How do I put everyone in a position to be successful and navigating, like, hey, I've got to understand everyone in this room is worried about their future, and I have to navigate that appropriately. Boom, 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 boom. He met with the Tech coaching staff and told them if they didn't want to be a part of the final 8 games of the season, they were free to depart, no questions asked. That's important too. When you're dealing with the type of situation he did, I mean, Collins had won 10 games in 3 1/4 seasons. That's it's almost hard to be that bad. Like, you really have to actively implement things that are just known to not work, which Collins was great at. First thing was to, prioritize what's killing you the quickest. Second, get rid of the people that aren't on board with this. Get them out as soon as possible. In sales, you see this too. Like, if you're hosting an open house, there's going to be people there that are just there to impress their girlfriends. You want to weed out people that are never going to buy, that are non-buyers. So as a coach, we need to weed out people that are non-buyers into what we're doing as quickly as possible. Because if we don't, they're going to be a problem. That's going to be a morale issue moving forward. Oh man, Key's making us work hard now. This ain't going to work. Just ring it in. This season's over anyways. You got to get that out as soon as possible. So it says Key does that. This is Key speaking. I said, if there's 1 day and 1 minute over the next 8 games that someone isn't doing their job to the best of their ability, I'm going to make sure that everyone in the world knows that was the case. So I was very blunt, very upfront, very honest with the staff. Then I went in with the team and I told them all to sit up in their chairs and pay attention. So communicating the expectations to the people directly under you. This is what it is. Not on board. Get out. This is what we're doing. Meets with the team. Tells them the first thing I want you to understand is I am you. You are me. I've walked in the same shoes you have. I know what you go through every day. I know what it's like to go to Skeller and take a test in accounting. Now, a lot of people put probably more weight than I do in having a guy that's like an alma mater of your school as your coach, like Cristobal at Miami, Key at Tech, etc. Obviously, we all want to win, but this is one of the advantages of having that. Key can sell that. And he used that, when he took over as interim. I know what it's like. I know the difficulties you go through. I've been there before. You're relating to these guys. And I came out the other side of it. I know how to navigate this. All right. Key says, y'all can sit around and feel sorry for yourselves, and that's what you're going to be known as. It's what they were known as up to this point. Tech was a laughing stock. It had to be completely demoralizing. I can't imagine what it was like to be on those teams. Key says, you're talking about defining a season. You have a chance to define who you are individually right now, which I love. Just call their manhood into question right there. Who are you going to be? There's a great movie about taking down Al Capone. Elliot Ness, they were called the Untouchables. You know, Capone would buy everybody. These guys you couldn't buy. Elliot Ness gets with a cop who's played by Sean Connery. And he asks him, basically, what are you prepared to do? You want to get Capone? I'll tell you how to do it. He pulls a knife on you, you pull a gun on him. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's how you get Capone. And all throughout the movie, he's asking him, what are you prepared to do? And really what it is what are you prepared to sacrifice? Nothing worth having doesn't come without sacrifice. You got to give something up. It's what Key, that's the feeling I get from Key right now. Are you bought in? What are you prepared to do? And think about the season. Sims gets hurt, whatever happens with that. Then we get the backup in, I can't even remember his name now. I went to Georgia State. Zach Gibson. Loses to Virginia in embarrassing fashion. Then we get Zach Pyron. I mean, this is all in Key's interim year. He's been head coach, about a month at that point. What are you prepared to do now? Then Zach Pyron, who is a baller, look out for him at Tech, breaks his collarbone against Miami. Again, what are you prepared to do now? Are you just going to roll over and say, hey, it's too difficult? Are you going to sit down and come up with a plan and work to get where you want? Adversity hits every team. Injuries hit every team. It's not an excuse. It's not an excuse. There's always something you can do. He says, plain and simple, so you want to be a bunch of losers or not? But the first thing we have to figure out what to do is stop losing. Y'all have zero confidence in yourselves. There's no competitive nature in you. I don't know how to change it, but we're going to tomorrow at 9:00 in the morning. I love it. Do you want to be losers? Do you like how this feels? It makes me think of Moneyball. Silence is how losing feels. Shouldn't be happy. Shouldn't be celebrating, having a good time. We want to win. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. And that's what I really respect about Key. At the end of the day, what do we have to do to win? That's what we're doing. I don't even know 100% how to fix this, at this point in the article, but we're doing it. We'll figure it out. Evidently, he then challenged him to come up with a leadership council. Ely and Keon White come up, ask if they can wear jewelry again. I guess they were wearing suits up to that. He's basically like, I'll pierce my nose and tongue and whatever else if it means we win. I don't care. I want to win. It doesn't surprise me that Ely and White were in that leadership council either. Those guys were ballers. And really, what a disservice was done to them under the previous regime. To be a great player, you got to have talent, the will, the work ethic, and all that. But you got to be in a program that can develop you too. You got to be under a head coach that knows how to develop you. He said the Jackets have been practicing lightly 2 times a week before Collins' dismissal. But on the first Tuesday of Key's interim tenure, Tech worked out for 2.5 hours in full pads. The Jackets would continue to train similarly all week before playing number 24 Pittsburgh that Saturday. Tech won that game 26-21. That's something, and this isn't a Bash Collins video, but that you can't outsmart the fundamentals of what works. these adages, fundamentals, they get tiresome and it sounds like a broken record, but it's because they're true. You can't develop toughness by doing walkthroughs, doing skeleton passing drills, by reading a book or academic stuff on the game of football. It's not how toughness is developed. Toughness is developed by face mask hitting helmets, pads hitting pads, blood, sweat, and tears on the field. That's where toughness is developed. You're not going to figure it out in the game. And that's what we did before. I really think that, hey, we'll take it easy in practice, and then because we're all running really quickly, it'll work itself out in the game. Practice has to be harder than the game. That's how you prepare. He instilled that from day one. The results speak for themselves. That's why I was so high. I was wanting Key to be the coach really after North Carolina game. I'm like, who's going to do better than this? Yeah, y'all could say interim bump. But again, it dismisses all this. It's not an accident that you get 2-3 touchdown underdog victories. That's not an interim bump. It's not accident. You don't stumble into something like that. That's, what you're doing and you have a plan. That's how that gets done. That's hard work. This is Key again. All I cared about is that we had 5 days to build some physicality and toughness into our football team and some discipline. Again, how easy it would be to be like, look, it is what it is this season. They're going to wipe the staff. 90% of the time they do that anyways. Interims are rarely ever hired. Whatever. Let me go ahead and dust up my resume. Not what Key said. Key said, we got 5 good days and nights. Let's go out there and build some toughness and physicality. That's why when people ask me why I like Brent Key, why I'm bought in on Brent Key, that's why. Because that takes character. I don't know that I've ever been as proud of a team as I am that team under Key's interim year. It's not easy to lose and lose and lose and be the laughing stock of college football. Embarrassing, block punt a game. Get off the deck with an interim coach. You don't even know if he's going to be your coach next year and play your ass off. That's not easy. That's the kind of thing that men are made of. That's the kind of thing that football players are made of. The article says behind the scenes, while Tech won games over Pitt, Duke, Virginia Tech, and North Carolina, they lost to Virginia, Florida State, Miami, and Georgia. Now, Pyron played for Florida State. Virginia, we had a quarterback get hurt. Miami, our backup quarterback, Zach Pyron, breaks his collarbone. So in 2 of those losses, we had quarterbacks that started the game get injured. Again, it's not an excuse. I'd say that to say that's a hell of a thing to have to navigate as an interim. And I think Key did it better than anyone would have done in those circumstances. By the way, he got Zach Gibson ready. We beat North Carolina with a 3rd and 4th string quarterback. And I know I make fun of North Carolina or not. They were a good football team. They went to the ACC title game that year. Or did they? I think they did. Anyways, it's like a blur to me too. He was plotting to put himself in strong consideration to be hired as Collins' replacement. He never admitted so publicly, but he said, wanting to keep the focus on his team and diminish any more distractions, he explained how he would work daily until midnight on the current team, then stay up until 4 a.m. planning how to possibly lead the future of the Jackets if given the chance. He said he lost 50 pounds during the strenuous stretch, but he gained the opportunity of a lifetime. I believe he lost 50 pounds. The workload of a coach is insane, especially for an interim who's auditioning for a job. I think, again, it speaks to the character Key that hey, this isn't about me. Yes, I want this, but at the end of the day, it's about putting these kids in a position to be successful. After I'm done with my duties to them, then I'll plan how I'm going to handle it. And think about that. He wasn't the number one choice. He wasn't, or he would have been hired at the end of the season. To knowing that, to still plan for the future of the team, that it's not certain whether they're going to retain your services, is amazing. I can't believe I almost skimmed over this last part of the article. I got the headphones on. I'm, editing things in the video. This is what makes you say, like, lean over to your buddy and say, I'm not crying. I'm fine. Talk about sacrifice and what that looks like. It's not just like the time or the blood, sweat, and tears. It's the family for a head coach, right? They make a sacrifice too. You make your sacrifice with them. These coaches are not seeing their kids or their wife much in season or even out of season. This is a year-round job. This is Brent Key here. He says, I would look at Danielle, who's his wife, and say, I can do this for 6 more weeks. I can do anything for 5 more weeks. I can do anything for 4 more weeks. I love this place that much. I love these kids that much. Key said, I was never going to say it publicly. Not one thing was I going to do in my day-to-day to interfere in giving these kids a chance to have success. And it's just like that's what Georgia Tech is about to me. That's what, and even open it up, that's what the game of college football is about to me. Key didn't know what the future held for him. And he's in this, insanely difficult situation with no guarantees. His wife sacrificing, he's sacrificing. And the mindset of, okay, I can do this for 5 more weeks. That gets done. Okay, I can make it 4 more weeks. I can give it all I got for 3 more weeks. That's what I'm talking about. Is this goes really beyond the realm of college football even, and just a mentality for life. Everyone goes not through the same thing that Key did, but difficult situations. And you want to give up. Man, I don't see any hope. I don't see how this is going to work out. And that's the thing about not being a soothsayer. You don't know how it's going to work out. But you know what? I can do it for another day. I can give my all for this week. I'll see where we are after that. I can do this for 2 more weeks. That's what I love about Brent Key. I learned something today. I hope you guys did too, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about it. If you learned something, y'all have a good one.